There's a door on deck 3 you've probably walked past every single day of your cruise without ever really looking at it. Plain steel, no artwork, no signage that means anything to you. It's locked, it's always locked, and it has no obvious reason to exist in a corridor that otherwise just leads to the laundry and the elevator bank. You've never thought about it for more than half a second. That door is a border crossing. On the other side of it is a city. Not a metaphor, an actual functioning city that houses somewhere around 2,000 people who live there continuously, eat there, sleep there, and for 6 to 9 months at a stretch, rarely see the world you paid to sail through. Most of them you'll encounter once, twice, maybe a handful of times across a week-long itinerary. The person who hands you a towel, the person who pours your drink, the person who appears at your cabin doorway with what seems like uncanny precision every single morning. Then they're gone again, back through the border. What most passengers picture when they imagine where crew go is something like the back of a restaurant, a utilitarian space somewhere vaguely behind everything, where the staff disappear between shifts. That picture is not wrong, exactly. It's just missing about 19 floors of physical reality. The ship you're sailing has two cities sharing one hull. Here's the one you haven't seen. Cross that bulkhead door, and the first thing you hit is a corridor. Not a hallway, a corridor in the way that a highway is technically a road. On large contemporary ships, the main crew artery runs bow to stern, below the waterline, for what amounts to the full length of the vessel. Crew call it different things on different lines, but the name that's stuck on enough of them that it became something of an industry term is I-95. Most passengers assume crew navigate the ship the same way passengers do. Same elevators, same corridors, just in different clothes, moving through their own spaces when nobody's watching. That is not what's happening. I-95 is its own transit system, completely invisible to anyone above the waterline. During peak shift changes, it looks less like a back hallway and more like a city block at rush hour, hundreds of people moving in both directions, every department represented, galley crew and housekeeping and bar staff and maintenance, all in their own variants of uniform, flowing past each other in a space that looks nothing like the ship above it. Bare metal overhead, functional lighting, the hum of the engines closer than you'd expect. It is always busy. The ship above the waterline is designed to feel effortless. I-95 is where the effort lives. From that corridor, the rest of the cruise city branches outward in a way that makes a specific kind of sense once you see it. The hierarchy is vertical. Junior crew, the stewards, the galley workers, and the housekeeping staff are berthed in the forward lower decks below the waterline, typically around 80 to 100 square feet. No window, two crew members to a cabin on staggered shifts, so the bed is rarely cold for long. Midship and slightly higher up, staff accommodations, entertainment, retail, medical, guest services, often a little more space, sometimes a porthole. Further aft and higher still, officers, sometimes with a sitting area, sometimes with an actual window above the waterline. The more senior you are, the higher up the ship you live and the further toward the stern. The physical architecture of the cruise city is the org chart. That logic extends everywhere, and this is where it gets interesting. You'd probably assume that with 2,000 people working together on the same ship for months at a time, there's a kind of functional egalitarianism to the crew experience. Everyone eating together, everyone using the same spaces. The job has a hierarchy, but the rest of it levels out. Crew don't eat together. On most large ships, the mess, the crew cafeteria, is actually 3 to 5 separate mess halls, segregated by rank, with meaningfully different menus, different seating, and different atmospheres. Senior officers eat in a dining room that functions more like a modest restaurant. Tablecloths, a shorter wait, a more varied menu. Junior ratings eat cafeteria style, with a shorter menu and a longer line. The hierarchy that governs where you sleep and how much corridor access you have also governs what you eat for dinner. The ship isn't just stratified for passengers, it's stratified twice, once above the waterline and once below it. There's a crew gym, a crew lounge, a small crew sun deck on most ships, usually a tucked-away patch of open air forward or aft, clearly marked off-limits to guests. Post-COVID, most lines have substantially improved crew access to Wi-Fi, and there are usually streaming stations, gaming setups, phone access points. The amenities exist. They're just tiered versions of everything above, scaled down and rank sorted. Which raises the obvious question, who actually lives in this city? The crew world looks diverse in the way that genuinely global teams look diverse. Dozens of nationalities, many languages, a constant low-level international energy. And that's real, but the distribution isn't random, and once you see the pattern, it reframes everything. The nationality geography of a cruise ship is engineered. On virtually every major Western cruise line, certain roles map almost directly onto specific countries of origin and specific regions within those countries. Cabin stewards, predominantly Filipino. Galley crew, heavily Indonesian. Officers, frequently Western Europe, Indian, or Eastern Europe depending on the line. Entertainment staff, often drawn from theater and hospitality programs in Eastern Europe, the UK, or North America. Your cabin steward, your bartender, and the cook who made your breakfast may all be from the same province in the Philippines, may have gone through the same manning agency in Manila, a manning agency being essentially a specialized recruitment firm that sits between the cruise lines and the global labor market, vetting candidates, handling contracts, and placing workers. Most crew members never apply to a cruise line directly. They apply to an agency, and the agency places them. It's not an accident that your cabin steward is from the Philippines. It's the output of a supply chain as deliberately engineered as the ship's hull. That supply chain also explains something about the wages that surprises most people when they hear the numbers. Ratings level crew, stewards, galley workers, maintenance typically earn somewhere in the range of $1,200 to $2,500 a month, including tips, which sounds modest until you account for what the contract actually includes. No taxes, because of the way flag state registration and time in international waters structures income, no rent, no food costs, no commute, no utility bills. The contract covers all of it. For a steward sending money home to a family in the Philippines, the effective take-home is often competitive with white-collar professional salaries back home. The 6-month contract functions as a financial instrument, compressed, all-in, structured to maximize what actually reaches the family. Crewing a large ship costs hundreds of millions of dollars a year in aggregate wages. That labor is structured to be legally offshore, and it's part of why a 7-night Caribbean cruise is priced the way it is. Which leads naturally to the question most passengers eventually get to. Wait, can crew ever actually come up to the passenger side? Are they permitted to just use the pool, sit at the bar? The short answer is that it's governed by rank, role, and line policy, which means the real answer is complicated. Officers in uniform move through passenger areas constantly as part of their duties. Entertainment staff and guest relations personnel work primarily in passenger spaces. That's their job. But ratings level crew, the stewards and galley workers and housekeeping staff, are generally restricted to crew areas when they're off duty. Some lines have carved out exceptions, late-night access to the passenger gym, for instance, or limited use of certain facilities during off hours. The policies vary, but the practical reality for a lot of junior crew is that the person who folded the towel animal on your bed and replenished your minibar may not be permitted to sit in the deck chair you spent the afternoon lying in. So what do crew actually do when they're off? In port, the ones who have shore leave, not all of them do, especially at turnaround ports when the ship is also boarding a new set of passengers, go ashore, often to specific bars and restaurants near the crew gangway that have been serving this same rotating workforce for decades. The circuit is real. Crew know which places to go in Nassau and Cozumel and Civitavecchia, the way regulars know which corner of a neighborhood to avoid and which to seek out. At sea, off-duty time goes to the gym, the streaming lounge, sleep, phone calls home, and the crew bar. The crew bar is where the two-city structure does something it almost nowhere else allows. It softens. Officers, ratings, staff, occasionally all in the same room, the same music, the same round of drinks. The mess halls sort people by rank. The crew bar is the one space that doesn't. And now you have the full picture. That locked door on Deck 3 is going to look exactly the same tomorrow morning when you walk past it on the way to breakfast. The ship around it will look the same. The steward who nods to you in the corridor will look the same, but now you know roughly what their morning looked like before they appeared at your door. The alarm, the narrow bunk, the walk down to a mess hall that's specifically theirs, the corridor that runs the full length of the ship below the waterline, moving with people you'll never see, carrying out a choreography that started long before you woke up and will run long after you go to sleep. Everything visible from the passenger deck has a return address somewhere below it. That locked door isn't a secret. It's just a threshold you never had a reason to cross before. Now you have, and the next time your steward appears in your cabin doorway exactly on time every single morning, somehow, you'll know what's on the other side of it. It's not the back of a restaurant. It's the other half of the ship. That's another one for the cruise files. If you want to learn more about what goes on behind the giant cruise ships, everything from the scams on board to the secrets below deck, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.